So what do you think the biggest risk of being a stepdad is?
I think the biggest risk is not knowing if the biological father is going to come back into the picture.
We've got this remarried love. It's better than we dreamed of. Left the pain in the past. Just you and me.
Welcome to Remarried Love, where we help you build a strong, healthy legacy remarriage.
We are your remarriage strategic advisors, and we'll share practical wisdom for the journey ahead.
I'm D,
And Aki.
and in this podcast, you'll gain tools for intentional growth because a legacy remarriage is built on purpose.
We are so glad you're here. In today's episode, we are going to be talking about the hardest part of being a stepdad. And so this is episode 2 in our blended family series. And so we're going to do what we did last time and ask some questions. I'm going to interview you. And then at the end, we are going to give our own advice to young men who may be becoming a stepfather, what advice we would give. First, let's just talk about how we experience stepfathers as a child.
Yeah. So I was introduced to my stepfather when I was 13 years old, or the man who would become my stepfather at 13. And I also had another person in my life, another man, and he was actually my step grandfather.
Wow, you had a step grandfather and a stepdad.
Yes. And I was wondering why this man was in so many pictures. And that's because he was my step grandfather and also my godfather.
How would you describe your stepfather?
Well, my stepfather was actually and is a good stepfather. He was a good man, just a good dude.
Yeah.
And I really appreciate that.
So for you, stepdads meant good things. Like you had a positive image of men coming into the family, stepping up and being the stepdad.
Well, I felt like what you just said, the man who was coming in and stepping up, he literally was stepping into that role and becoming a stepfather of some sort. And I did have a positive image of them. And I felt like it was a good experience.
Yeah. So for you, if you became a stepdad, it'd be like, yeah, because I've had good men in my life.
Yeah, just be a good dude and, take care of your responsibilities. And I felt like,
everything would be great.
you'll have a good life. Yeah.
Well, my experience with stepdad was kind of around the same time. That's when I had my stepdad at 13. Before then, though, my father became a stepdad to my stepmom's children. And I saw my dad, be a dad and a stepdad. And for me, I really didn't see a difference. Like he was still dad. Mm-hmm. I think it did cause some conflicts because he was the disciplinarian. And my stepmom was not the disciplinarian anyway. And my dad is very much the disciplinarian. And so I don't think she minded that he was disciplining all the kids. Maybe his tactic, he's old school. But yes, I saw my dad become a stepdad. And the change to me was like, there was no change in him. It was just how other people reacted to him that were not in his family. Yeah. Then I saw some men in my family become stepfathers. And I didn't see that relationship go well. As some of my male family members becoming stepfathers, they had a lot of issues, within their blended family. And then with my stepdad, he was a decent stepfather, I guess I would say. I wasn't like super close to him or anything. And because my dad was so dominant in my life, he was more like my mom's husband.
Yeah. So he really wasn't the stepdad. He was more of husband to your mother. Yeah. And that was creating the family dynamics, basically.
Right. He was like a stepfather figure, but I didn't bond with him like a dad. I bonded with him like
your mother's husband.
Yeah, like a responsible adult that was over me because he did not discipline me. My mom disciplined me or she called my dad. And then he disciplined. So that was their agreement.
Okay.
All right. So the first question I have is, how did you become a stepdad?
Well, I became a stepdad when I met a person who had a son. Mm-hmm. And that's when, after we got married, I became a stepfather.
Yeah. So you got married to a person that already had a child. And did you have children when you married this person?
I did not have any children at that time.
Okay. So marriage is how you become stepdad, which is like all of us. And what would you say, we'll just start right into it. What was the hardest part for you to be a stepdad? What was the hardest part?
Well, for me, the hardest part of becoming a stepfather was having all of the responsibility and little to no authority. And so that was pretty tough when it came to being a stepfather.
Is there an example you can share about what you mean by that, like having no authority?
So let's say when the child grew up and I wanted to go outside, cut the grass for the house, you want to have a nice looking home. And I had our son come and help me outside to do the grass. And I was going to teach him how to do it himself, and I would be out there, of course, watching. But I wanted to show him and give him a little bit of manhood during that day. It was a hot day.
Yeah.
He wasn't feeling it. He was like, I don't want to be out here. I'm not trying to mow no grass or be outside on a hot day when I could be inside drinking Kool-Aid and watching and playing games. So he went into the house and told his mother that he did not want to be outside mowing the grass on a hot day. And she opened the door, and I remember her screaming at me saying, he doesn't have to be out here. It's too hot. He doesn't want, well, I'm out here. It is hot.
Right.
So I'm trying to show him that even if it's hot, cold, whenever, you have to take care of your home. And that was one of the lessons that I was working on, to tell him. Another part to that is that when he went into the house, she came out and said, he doesn't have to, be out there doing all that. She was overriding me.
So he didn't help you that day?
So he did not help me that day. And that to me is one of the hardest parts of, like I said, you're having all this responsibility, but little to no authority.
I think a lot of men feel that way, in being a stepfather. Where does my authority, like the line, where do I have, if I'm having all of the responsibilities, like all my resources are being used in this household, all my efforts, everything here, and my jurisdiction is what, so I understand that could definitely be a challenge as a stepdad.
Oh yeah. To me, that was the number one challenge, because I'm expected to take care of the finances, the emotional state, the religious state, and
physical state of the home, cars,
everything. And so to have little or no authority regarding those situations, it really does get to a man.
So you were a single man, and then you became a stepdad. How did you navigate balancing your new role and identity as a stepdad?
Well, I had to remember that no matter what, being a stepdad didn't mean I was going to lose who I am as a person. And I did try to be everything to everyone in that situation.
Yeah.
But I had to come back to the fact of I'm still a man. I'm still somebody. And so I had to remember the relevance of myself.
If I'm hearing right, you're saying you're in this new role and you're doing the most.
Yeah.
But it was a little bit too much. You were extending too much of yourself.
I was extending all of myself, and the return was not what I expected, because I did have good examples of stepfathers and a step-grandfather, but I wasn't receiving the same reward, so to speak.
Yeah, you weren't receiving that same like respect and the way you're feeling about your step parents and your stepfather and your step grandfather. That wasn't what you're experiencing.
No,
so
not at all.
You were like, I have to remember who I am.
Exactly. And I think that that's something that a lot of men, especially if you're a new person, you should remember that you are somebody no matter what.
You mean a new stepdad?
Yes, a new stepfather.
I think stepmoms feel the same way. New stepmoms. You have to remember who you are and your value in the blended family.
Yeah.
So my next question kind of goes into, how did you build trust with your stepchildren or your stepson in this example?
Well, the first thing that I had to do was be consistent. So I had to maintain my word. I had to make sure that I bonded with the child, and, he got to know who I am as a person.
Yeah.
And one of the ways to do that is to be there, show up daily, to make sure that I'm taking care of him in his life. So if he asks me a question, hey, can I go out and get some ice cream? And if I say, we'll go out at 5:00 and get some ice cream, then I have to maintain my word, get in the car, take him with me at 5:00, go get the ice cream, just like I said I would. So one of the things I had to do was just maintain my word, be consistent, and be responsible in that area.
Yeah, I think for me, like my stepdad, I don't know what type of bond you can have with your stepdad that you don't see all the time, because I didn't live with my mom all the time. Mm-hmm. But I will say he was consistent. He was a military man, so he was consistent in his personality and his strictness, the rules he had in his household. He was who he was. So I respected the fact that I didn't feel like he was somebody different somewhere else, or he was this totally different person. And then now we're dealing, it was just kind of who he was.
So what you saw is what you got.
What you saw is what you got. Yeah. And I think that was the way that we bonded. And I've mentioned before that we had a nickname for each other. Our name was Buddy. He was my buddy and I was his buddy. So we had this like special name for each other. Mm-hmm. And I kind of think that was our little bond, because I was like, that is really cool. Like, I have a stepdad, it's Buddy. That wasn't his real name. That was the name we decided. We call each other that. And so I guess that was our little thing.
Well, it's kind of like when a person becomes someone's mom and they don't necessarily call her mom, but they give her a little nickname as the mother.
You mean as like a stepmom?
Yeah, stepmom,
just a little cute name. So we had that.
Yeah. Well, friends do that as well, people.
Yeah.
So that's really good.
You've probably heard us mention this before.
We were the children of divorced parents, and we both have been divorced ourselves.
And now we're 15 years strong in our remarriage journey. So trust us when we say we get it when starting over and building a new life together. If you're ready to reclaim your power in love, life, and money, I wrote Power Over All just for you. It's real, it's encouraging, and it's meant to walk with you as you heal and grow. There's also a companion journal to help you track your progress and reflect all year long. Grab your copy today and step fully into the power God already gave you. Links in the description. Now let's get back to the episode. So the other question I had, what support did you wish you had when you had become a stepdad?
Well, the main support I wish I had was something that I did not know, and that is basically a group. Maybe a stepdad group, and also a mentor or someone who is a leader, a man leader in my life. My stepfather was in my life, but I was older and I was, in another part of town somewhere. So I'm speaking on having someone who is close to me who could be a mentor or leader or a men's group that is close to you.
Yeah. And that would tell you what did you want out of the support group?
Well, things I didn't know about being a stepdad.
Like giving you some insight about some of the challenges,
information, help, because it's not just about the child, it's also about the relationship. So I needed, as a person who is new coming in, I needed some information on how to make this thing work.
Because sometimes, like you said, when you see it from your child's eye, like how you saw your stepdad, you didn't even know that you needed what questions to ask him. Like, what do I say? How do you become a stepdad?
Well, I think, what do I need to know as a stepdad? And a lot of people don't know to even ask that question, prior to becoming a stepfather or stepmother. And I wish that I knew to ask that question.
And that's kind of why you wanted to start this Remarried Love podcast, to help other men, going through this whole journey from being married, divorced, re-singled, dating, getting married again, and possibly being in a blended family situation.
Exactly. And I want to help men and women who have been through the whole gambit of what you just said, because it affects everybody. When you go through a divorce, it affects the whole family.
And a remarriage.
And a remarriage does, because now you have to go through this bonding stage.
Right.
And hopefully you can bond. It's an interesting thing to rip something apart and then go somewhere else and then try to bring something different together. And so that's basically what you're doing when you have a family, you go through a divorce, and now you're remarried, and you're trying to blend or create a new family over here where there's a cohesive household. And that's something that a lot of people have not been trained or learned to do.
And as a stepdad, it's almost like your responsibility to do all the mending.
Yeah. Well, you're responsible for making sure that the mending is not just complete, but a right type of mending. so that everything works out correctly.
Right. You're responsible to fix everything sometimes. Yes. So just as a stepdad, I mean, what is some of the emotional and mental challenges that you had?
Well, many times I felt like I was the outsider because it was my ex-wife and her son. Mm-hmm. I felt like the outsider and the vice president.
The vice president? What do you mean by that? Like, what do
you
mean?
The vice president has a lot of authority, but the president has more authority than the vice president. So in that case, I felt like I was being overruled and overridden when she would speak to the child. So the child would listen to her, and what she said goes, not what I said goes.
Do you have an example that you can share?
One example that I would say is I wanted to take the child to a basketball game, and she would say, no, we're not going to go to the basketball game. We're going to stay in the house, and you're going to do homework. So, and
then, like, would that cause an argument?
Well, of course it causes an argument, especially if it's done in front of the child.
And so then she is, like, overriding your decision?
She's overriding my decision, and I feel undermined because you don't want someone to talk to you like that in front of the child. I personally believe that if you have disagreements as a husband and wife, you should do it behind closed doors, not in the public. You're not screaming and yelling at each other, and also not in front of your children. I'm not saying that the children don't see some of your disagreements,
right?
But there are times when you do have to do things just between the two of you.
So how did that emotionally or mentally affect you? Or did it? Did it cause anything?
I think it did cause things because it wasn't just a one-time event. That happened on a regular basis. And so you can only sustain so much of that injury to your relationship.
So you being the vice president, you're saying you have these responsibilities, but you have no authority on how it's going to happen.
Well, the vice president has little to no authority while the president is there. So it's not that I didn't have any authority. It's just that it was diminished when the other person would speak on a situation instead of us coming together and talking behind closed doors and saying, okay, it's going to be this. And, the person who is the president, which should have been me, would make the declaration and the child exactly. Yeah. And I'm saying two things at once, but the child would listen and say, okay, well, he said this and she's in agreement with it. And that's because we have talked about it behind closed doors. But when the child goes running to the biological parent, and then that biological parent says in front of the child to the stepdad and disrespects or undermines him, that doesn't help the relationship.
And married couples, that bio families kind of have that issue too, but it seems like with stepdads, it's a lot of undermining. Even when there is like maybe a decision or a plan, hey, we're going to do this, that, but then they're still undermining. Is that what I'm hearing you say?
Yeah, because things can change, or somebody feels like they should do this, or someone feels like they want to make a change. Then yes, undermining can take place.
I remember like my dad and stepmom talking about things that happened with us, and I felt like my dad was the overrider. I mean, it didn't matter. Like, he was going to do it, but it did cause something in their marriage. So I think with being a stepdad, there's a fine line, because some stepdads will say, look, hey, just do what you guys want to do. But then there's kind of like a separation. Then you, like you said, you feel like an outsider because it's like part of the family, the mom and the child are doing something else, and the dad is not really agreeing with it. And then there's the other extreme where there's a stepdad who's like, I'm putting my foot down. I don't care what anyone says. But then that kind of builds resentment for everyone. So it's like there has to be some type of communication and agreement.
Well, I was going to say the agreement part, because that's where the bonding comes, when you are in agreement. When you have that separation, of course, there's going to be some animosity. There's going to be a lot of people feeling, salty about the decisions that are made, whether it's the male or the female and the child. So you want to be able to come into agreement as husband and wife to alleviate some of this undermining and, negative feelings.
Because a lot of moms will feel like this is my child.
It is your child. But if you want another man to raise the child, he has to have the ability, the authority, and the necessary backing to take care of that child in the way that you say you want.
I always used to wonder, like, why I would see some women who would give complete authority to like a reckless man. You know, they'd be like, hey, son and daughter, this man is your new dad now. You call him daddy and, you know, you do this, knowing that he was a reckless man.
Well, to me, that's a sign of a lack of wisdom when you know that this particular person is a reckless individual. They're not using wisdom. They don't have your best interest at hand or the best interest of the children at hand. And more than likely, they didn't bond with the children. So they're just making their own declarations and doing things that they want to do on their own. And that's what you call reckless. And in the same token, there's good men who have no authority.
So it was a little interesting that there would be women who would give this authority away to a reckless man.
Yeah. And in the same token, there's good men who don't have that authority.
Yeah, the women wouldn't give good men authority.
They wouldn't give the good man authority, but like you said, they would give it to a reckless man. And so that's where wisdom comes in. Somebody in the house has to have wisdom, especially if you have a family that's a blended family. Somebody's got to be wise about these things.
And when you say wise about these things, what do you mean?
I mean about how the family is going to be run, how the finances are going to be, the relationship bonding,
discipline,
the love, the respect.
So where do you think stepdads can get wisdom of leading a home?
Well, there are a lot of good men who have navigated through the murky waters. And so they can offer advice. They can go into their religious beliefs. They can go into groups where there's, a wise counsel within groups of men, and they can receive that kind of wisdom there.
What advice would you give a man who's becoming a new stepdad?
First piece of advice that I would give is to proceed with caution.
Okay, so move slowly.
Yes, you want to move slowly. And you don't want to do it out of loneliness.
Oh, okay.
So you don't want to believe that you want to have a family so bad. Mm-hmm. You always want to have a child. You always want to have a wife, and you don't want to be alone. Don't do that,
So you're kind of like you're becoming a stepdad because you're marrying this thought and this image or dream, mm-hmm. but you don't really know the people. Is that what you're saying? Like,
exactly. So
get to know
yourself and get to know them. So do your research. And the second piece of advice I would give is to know the biological father for yourself. You're not going to just go off of what someone else is telling you about this man.
Yeah.
Experience him for yourself so you have your own relationship, your own knowledge base, mm-hmm. and that you yourself can, make your own decisions because you truly understand and know what you're dealing with.
So if I hear you right, you're saying know the child's father.
Know who he is, what he's about, mm-hmm. so that you have the truth and not what people are telling you it is.
The truth about, well, he may be putting on a front. You're saying,
well, you can see that, you're not
Yeah.
stupid or anything like that. You know when someone's pulling wool over your eyes. So you want to be able to just talk to him and, or experience him. You hear him talk, you mm-hmm. see his face, basically what he's about because you've been in his presence and he's been in yours.
I definitely support that advice. Like, get to know where that child's origins are from, Mm-hmm. I have seen ladies that are divorced and their child is under 1 year old. Women are extremely loyal to the man that they have a child with. Usually if they've married a man and they've had a child with a man, mm-hmm. it's something about that man that made the woman do that.
Yes.
And now the child is less than 1 year old, and she wants to marry you and you become the stepdad, right? Yeah. I would proceed with caution. That's your first one, yeah. and really understand what happened here.
Exactly.
Because
that's where doing your research comes
doing
into
the
play.
research,
mm-hmm.
and is this man in jail, and she's just looking for a stepfather temporarily? Mm-hmm. Is he overseas?
Yes. Does he have a military assignment?
Yeah. Is he somewhere that he's coming back? There's really not a detachment. She's looking for a fill-in.
A stand-in. Yes. That's what I was thinking.
Mm-hmm. And we've talked to couples and we've talked to men that feel that way. Like, I just feel like I'm just this philanthropist. I just give money, but I have no say on where it goes, how people use it. There's no respect. There's no thank you.
And they really don't tell you what they're going to do with any of the finances at all.
Yeah. And then you see, then the child, turns 18, they're graduating, and you're not even, as a stepfather, you're not even invited to the graduation. You're like, and they want you to pay for it.
Or you're invited and then they give your ticket away to someone else, which is the biological father, because that's the one they really wanted to be there.
Right. Like, is the biological father still in the woman's heart?
I like how you put that, in her heart. You didn't say in her life. You said in her heart.
In her heart. And you'll know, women, we know if that man is out, he's out.
Yeah.
And, even if you have to have a family member or someone meet her and try to I think a whole meeting of people's family is important too, especially in blended families.
It's very important because it will reveal some truths that you possibly do not see at the moment.
Yeah, you could be caught up in a lot of things. The way she looks, the way, the little boy looks just like you, or the girl.
man's swagger.
Yeah, or something. Oh, he's this, and you can get caught up easily in emotions with love and family, but you have to kind of look beyond that and have a plan. Like, you have to have a plan and openness, communication about, like, what are we trying to do here?
Yeah. So I definitely think that you should proceed with caution, do your research, and then also my third piece of advice is to know what kind of authority do you as the stepfather have, and what does the biological father have? Where does that boundary lie?
The line goes
where's the line? Yeah.
In your household, because let's say bio dad says he can get a guitar. No, let's say a drum set. That's more. Yeah. He's like, yeah, he can have a drum set. I'm going to get it to him. And stepdad says no, or vice versa. Stepdad says you can get the drum set, and bio dad said it doesn't even matter who said. One person is saying one thing and the other dad is saying the other thing.
Yes.
Who in that situation
has authority? Who's
the president and who's the vice president?
Exactly. And who decides who's the president and who's the vice president? That's what I wonder, because
does it keep switching?
If it's my home, I'm the president.
Yeah.
I'm not the vice president. I am the president, and what I say goes, and I'm going to be a good president. But, you have to also listen to the people. And with that, what I mean is that you're going to take care of your household, the people. You're going to maintain them.
What do you mean listen to them? You said you have to listen to them.
When I say listen to them, I mean you're going to bond with them. You're going to, when you have a child who is not your child, the stepchild, you want to listen to them, get into their world, learn about them, about their ways, what they're into, so that you can have a peaceful society in your home.
Peaceful society.
Yeah, I'm trying to bring them both together.
And that is hard. I mean, that's hard in any family, even more with blended families. I think stepdads have this very unique role, that they have to play. The best societies, if I'm using your word, the best societies I have seen is when the woman, the bio mom, is in agreement with the stepdad.
Yes.
And I feel like, I guess in your situation, like your mom was in agreement with your stepdad.
She was.
Even now, I don't really see too much
disagreement with them.
Yeah, disagree. They're like on the same page.
Yeah,
that's what we call it. Like
whatever that page is, they're both on.
They're on right. Whatever page they're deciding, they're on that page. Being on the same page is so important. So when I have seen it not work, where there's issues with the stepdad, is when the bio mom and the stepdad are not on the same page. You know, or she's on a page with somebody else. Like she's on the page with the grandmother. She's on the page with the bio dad.
Well, we'll have to do another episode regarding third parties in your relationship, because that's something.
We'll have to do a continuation.
Well, yeah, it's always continuation, because you have to, first of all, get that out of your life, and then not have it come back. And you're right, it is a continuation of that.
And learning how to be on the same page for the children, because that's really the most important thing, is how can we have a peaceful society and raise these kids that are going through just what they go through in life, and then having good examples and role models for them.
Well, I personally believe it's more than just raising the kids, because every last one of us has one life to live. So with that in mind, I want to have a great life. You want to have a great life. The children want to have a great life. So how can we do this all at the same time? That's the goal.
That is a great vision to have. Like, I do want to raise the kids, like you said, and have a good remarriage.
Yes. So my last piece of advice is to ask a lot of questions. And you want to know one question in particular, and that's, if the child gets married, who's going to walk that child down the aisle?
If it's a girl?
If it's a girl, who's walking her down the aisle? Is it the biological father or the stepfather? And if it's the biological father, is he paying for it? Because if I'm the stepdad and I'm not walking her down the aisle, who's paying for that?
So you said ask questions about who the biological dad is, who who's all in the family, what are we doing here? But now you're also saying ask like future questions.
Future questions.
Put up scenarios. Like, if this happens, where do you see the decision going? Like, what do you think should happen? Okay, here's another example. If the child decides to go to a college that we don't want him to go to, or we can't afford, like who's going to get the loan? Like, who's paying for that?
So this happened to me. I was working in higher education, and the child was able to go to several different colleges, but we would have to only pay for room and board.
Oh, so their tuition was free?
The tuition was free for the college.
Oh, yeah.
You're just paying for room and board. And he decided that he did not want to go to any of those colleges. Like, it wasn't just like 1, 2, 3, 4.
Yeah.
It was a list of colleges that he could have gone to. He decided, I'm not going to go to any of those. I'm going to go to this one way over here that has nothing to do with what I was able to get for him. And so it's like she was expecting me to pay for that. And I'm like, well,
the new college?
She was expecting me to pay for the new one that was way away from.
Wasn't on the list and wasn't in the, like, you were able to open doors and have opportunities for him, being the dad, being the man that you were. And then it was like, well, we're not going to take that.
We're not going to do that. We're not going to take it.
We're going to go over here.
Where you have no say, no authority or anything. Yeah. But we want you to pay for it.
To foot the bill.
Yes, you're going to foot the bill for all of this. And I was like, yeah, I'm not paying for that.
Yeah. And I guess that's why you have these scenarios. I mean, if you're about to be a stepdad to a very young child,
yes,
there's a lot of questions you want to ask.
Ask a lot of questions about the now and the future.
And if you two have children together, you also want to ask questions like, what would happen if you and I have children?
Yeah, you want to know that, because if the biological parent is still in the picture, or if they can be in the picture, you want to know if that's something that could happen to you, because that has happened to some people. And I think that that's another piece of advice that I would offer to a new man who is wanting to be a stepfather. Know if the biological father can step his foot back into the situation or not.
We've said that so many different ways about the biological dad, because it is important, especially for men. I think so much is required of them. Yeah.
It goes back to my first statement. You have a lot of responsibility, but little to no authority. And that's based off of, the family unit that you're creating. Does that woman respect your authority? And will she give you ultimate authority in that household? Or is she waiting for the other man so she can give it to him?
And just the relationship with the bio mom and the stepdad. I know in your situation, the bio dad actually passed. Yes. So you didn't have that conflict or anything like that.
No, I became the stepfather, and then eventually I became an adoptive father. I actually took him and gave him my name. So I went a step further, I should say, and gave him my lineage. So, that's where I ended up.
So what do you think the biggest risk of being a stepdad is?
I think the biggest risk is not knowing if the biological father is going to come back into the picture.
I had a coworker who was a stepdad. He had married a lady that had 2 daughters, and I think they got married like when the daughters were in elementary school. They grew up, everything was fine. The bio dad was cool. Everybody was just fine. And he thought like after they graduated, it was smooth sailing. But then the kids grew up and they had children. So they now had birthday parties and family celebrations where they would invite their mom and dad, and he would come because they were very family oriented.
So you're saying to me that the biological father would come and be in that situation as well?
Yeah, with his wife too.
Oh, okay.
And everybody was there, and his wife, always gave him respect, but he said he felt a little bit like an outsider because the bio dad had a wife and they had children. Mm-hmm. And the woman, his wife, mm-hmm. and the bio dad had children, the 2 girls.
Yes.
And he was the only parent figure that had no kids of his own.
That's because even the 2 girls, they had children of their own.
And now they had children of their own. Yeah. And so I think to piggyback what you're saying is that if you're a stepdad with no children, you're like at high risk of maybe getting your heart broken or feeling some type of way about things. Mm-hmm. Would you agree with that?
I would agree with that because, not having a child where there are other parents around and everyone else has a child, it's a risk to take.
Because your woman may not want to have any more children.
Yes.
Or she can't have any more children. Or whatever the situation is. Mm-hmm. I also thought it was, my dad had children. And my stepmom had children. So when they blended the family, everybody had children. So it was like
the Brady Bunch.
Yeah. And they were like, we're not having any more children because we already all have enough. Mm-hmm. But in that was the first time I saw my stepbrother and sister. They were actually separated. She was the primary custody, but my stepbrother decided to go back with his bio dad.
Yes.
And live with him. And then the daughter was with her bio mom, which was my stepmom. So, as a stepdad, you're one of the children that could live with you could now live with someone else. Mm-hmm. These are risks and these are things that I had never even imagined.
So that's basically pulling your heartstrings because it's like I raised this person.
Right.
I did this with that person. I was there for her or him. Mm-hmm. And now the other, parent has the authority to be able to take them and raise them. It wasn't
a situation where there was any issue, but he really wanted to live with his dad. And, you're thinking, I could just see as a stepdad, I was working overtime to get him through the baseball team or whatever it is. Mm-hmm. And now he's gone. Or as a stepdad, I was doing all of this to get her, through all of these programs and stuff. And now she's graduated and doing all of this with her bio dad.
So one of the risks is knowing that you could be putting in a lot of work and then there's a major change in the end.
There's a shift,
a change, a redirection in the end.
And, we need stepdads, we need stepfathers, we need our biological fathers. Mm-hmm. And I feel like stepfathers really help. If I didn't have my stepfather, I think my life with my mom would have been totally different.
Yes.
And I'm sure you feel the same with your mom raising you and your sister by herself.
Well, my life actually changed once my stepfather came into our lives.
Yeah.
So
for the good.
Yeah, it changed for the good.
So stepdads are great. Thank you for answering these questions and sharing your personal stories and feelings about it.
Well, I hope that we're able to help someone else on their journey, whether they're a new stepfather or a seasoned stepfather, or a step grandfather.
Yeah. Hang in there.
This was an insightful conversation.
It was very good.
Yeah.
I hope stepdads out there feel encouraged and know that you're not alone.
Thanks for listening to this episode, and we'll see you in the next one.
Bye-bye.
We've got this remarried love. It's better than we dreamed.